Well, hello there, and welcome everyone. I am Dr. Paulina and I am the host of this show, The Poetry of Healing. And I am so thrilled that you stopped by because during this show, we will discuss toxic encounters we have solely because of the color of her skin. Our guest today will show us how her recollections of these encounters helped her to develop ways to counteract the negative, hurtful effects and heal. She'll guide us and teach us a few simple yet effective ways to neutralize, eradicate, deal with these hurtful acts that happen to us simply because of who we are. We'll also integrate poetry and meditation, like we do, as soothing approaches to caring for ourselves. So, as we always begin with a centering exercise to help focus and collect our energy for this time together, and it's a time for you, it's a gift for yourself. So today I invite you to participate with me in saying affirmations, which are positive statements designed to encourage an optimistic mindset, a positive mindset. And the affirmations reflect your core personal values. And so usually we do heart math breathing. But I wanted to start this new year with affirmations just to set a foundation. So I'm going to ask you to softly close your eyes or lower your gaze if it's comfortable. And we are going to take a couple of slow, deep breaths just to help us focus and relax. So remember, you breathe in through your nose slowly and then out through your nose or mouth. Okay, let's take a couple more breaths together. Take a breath in through your nose and then out through your nose or mouth. And then one more on your own. Okay. And as I prepare us to say these affirmations, I'm going to say it. And then I ask you to say it. So you may be at a place where you can speak it. And if you are, I ask you to do that because you can feel the energy of the words. But if you're not, then just mentally say it. And that's effective too. I have 7 that I'm going to ask you to participate in. So keeping your eyes closed or lowered, soft gaze, and then just continue to breathe slowly. Okay. So the first one is, I am enough. I am enough. I believe in my dreams, myself, and all that I am. I believe in my dreams, myself, and all that I am. I love myself for who I am. I love myself for who I am. I create my own happiness. I create my own happiness. My life is filled with abundance of goodness. My life is filled with abundance of goodness. My challenges are actually opportunities. My challenges are actually opportunities. I am beautiful, just or handsome, just the way I am. I am beautiful or handsome, just the way I am. Wonderful. So let's just take some transitioning breaths and I'll guide you. So I'd like you to take a deep breath in and out slowly to notice you are here. Take another deep breath in and out slowly to notice how your beautiful body feels. And lastly, take a nice deep breath in and out to enter this session. So thank you. So welcome for those of you viewers who have just joined us. I am Dr. Paulina Van, and I'm the author of Regala Healing, an evocative approach for self-care, self-understanding, and inner healing, and the host of this show, The Poetry of Healing. And you've joined us as we've just completed a centering exercise to help us to kind of focus and bring our energies to this place. And today's show is all about how we heal after the damage caused by racism. You are just in time to meet our guest, and I'd like to welcome to the show my new sister friend, Janis Evans. So let me bring her on. Hi, Janis.
Hi, Dr. Paulina.
And welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here. I really appreciate the invitation.
Well, I am just so happy that you are here, glad that you are here. And before I introduce you, or before you introduce yourself, because I'm going to invite you to introduce yourself, I'd like for us to share with our viewers how we connected. Okay, so I'll start the story, and if you don't mind, you can wrap it up. Okay.
Okay.
So Janis tuned into the show a couple of months ago. It was actually the first anniversary of this show, The Poetry of Healing, on November the 11th. And as it was a show, I was being interviewed. We're celebrating the first year of this show. And I was being interviewed by Ellis Dean, who's the director of the digital programming and production at blackdoctor.org. And it was the very first show I had a question and answer segment. And I'm glad I did because Janis reached out. And Janis, would you like to take it from there and tell us?
I reached out because I was really intrigued with what you were sharing about healing and poetry. I'm a poet as well. So I just immediately felt a connection and just wanted to get to know you. So I think you asked me to leave my information in the chat, and I left my information, and then you got in touch with me. And we found that we had a lot in common, not just poetry, backgrounds, and then our passion for healing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we connected, and that's how I ended up here with you today.
Well, it's so interesting. Janis and I are so connected. We even had doctor's appointments this week at the same time. So there is something. So you heard me call you my new sister friend, and I mean that from the very heart. I am so glad.
Yeah, that touched me. I feel the same.
Yes, yes. So, Janis, nothing happens by chance, and we are here today to share stories about racism and healing. A day before celebrating the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday as a federal holiday for over 40 years in the United States. It's been even longer, maybe over 50 years, that the states, individual states, have celebrated it. And then the following day, January 17th, is National Day of Racial Healing. And this is the 6th year of individuals focused during this day, of individuals, organizations, communities coming together to attempt to repair the damage caused by racism. So, you know, we're working, and we're here because it was destiny for us to
Yes,
be able to
yes.
talk about this at this time and to tap into your gifts. So I'm going to ask you now to share with our viewers, as much as you feel comfortable, your background, personal and professional.
Yes.
Mhm.
I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. I grew up as a first generation Jamaican American. Both my parents are from Jamaica. I moved to Washington, D.C., which is where I live now, to attend graduate school at Howard University, where I received a master's degree in counseling psychology. I have been working in the mental health field for over 30 years now, and I run my own practice, Evans Counseling and Consultation, and I provide individual and couples counseling on anxiety, depression, grief, loss, and most currently, racial healing, as I am just dealing with my own racial healing, which prompted me to write my book, which
Mhm.
is Recollections About Race, Getting to the Roots and Healing. Um, did you want me to go on?
Well,
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you to take a breath right there because
Mhm.
we're so connected. I want, before I ask you to further describe the impetus for writing your book, I want to share with the audience um, something from your book. And I've read your book twice since it came in the mail. And in individual sittings, I just sat down and read it through. I could not put it down. But I think this is in the preface, and it grabbed me immediately. And this is your response to watching the uh, George Floyd video on Facebook. You wrote, I felt compelled to keep watching, to take this evidence into my being so that I could record it in my psyche. I felt I needed to keep hold of my gaze for her, the young traumatized witness, and for him, the victim of police brutality. Watching this video traumatized me physically, emotionally, and psychologically. It made me weak. I never watched it again. So, Janis, if you can pick up from there.
Yeah, you took me back listening to that. I can a visceral
Mhm.
reaction to just hearing those my own words. Um, when I watched that video, uh, the days after, I started remembering things that had happened to me. Things when I was a child, when I was a teenager, even as an adult, instances of microaggressions, um, racism, um, just poor treatment because of the color of my skin. And so I started writing them down. I felt that I needed to just start writing. And as I was writing, more and more kept coming up. And then after I had several of them, I said, well, I wonder if this could be a book. I've never written a book before. I'm a debut author. My father always said, why don't you write a book? And I never knew what he was talking about because I didn't think I had anything to say. So this video triggered a lot of memories. And before I knew it, I was putting a book together, asking friends to look at it, look at my stories. Eventually got a publishing consultant to help me self-publish. And I published the book November of 2021.
Mhm. And so you mentioned, thank you, Janis. And as I've spoken to the viewers about how words have energy, and so you felt the energy
Mm-hmm.
of your words taking you back to that very time.
Yes.
So, we often hear sticks and stones won't break my bones. Um, Wait, how does it go? Sticks and stones won't break my bones, and
Mm-hmm.
words will never harm me. Is
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but words have energy, so
Mm-hmm.
they can
Mm-hmm.
harm you or they can heal you. And
Right.
so today we're talking about the healing
Mm-hmm.
energy of words. So, if you might, if you would just be so gracious as to describe one or two of your recollections. In the book, you have 12.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Mm-hmm.
want to preface it by saying none of the recollections that you'll hear from Janis are new. We've all experienced at least one, and most likely all of them. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Janice, would you share with us?
Sure. Let me share the one that I recall as a child, the first. recollection.
Mm-hmm.
When I was about 8 or 9, I was at a park, a public park called Delaware Park in Buffalo, New York, where my father was on a cricket team, and they played cricket. They would come, the Canadian teams would come over the border and they would play cricket, and then we would go over the Canadian border and play them. So we were at the park, and they were playing cricket, and a little boy came up to me, a little white boy, and he looked at me and he said in his Canadian accent, "Your skin's dirty." And I said, "What?" He said, "Your skin's dirty." And I didn't know what he was talking about. I thought maybe there was some dirt or something on my face.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was laughing.
Mm-hmm.
He had this real, mean kid, sardonic kind of laugh. And then it hit me what he was saying. He was saying that your skin is black.
Mm-hmm.
But he was saying it in the most negative way. That was my first experience with a racial slur directed at me as a child. And I was angry because I couldn't do anything. I didn't know what to do, actually. So that stuck with me, and I didn't know to what extent until I was looking at that George Floyd video.
And, Janis, you bring up a good point. We're almost like a collection container of all these microaggressions and assault with words or action, and they just collect and work in the background. I mean, you're the counselor. I'm not the counselor. I'm not trying to be Janis, but
no, you're good. You're a healer. Same thing.
Yes. And so, we're collecting all these things, and unconsciously just eating away.
Yes.
Not only at our mind and spirit, lowering our self-esteem and lowering our confidence, but it also damages our body, our beautiful body.
Yes.
That's why it's so important to talk about this, even though it may be uncomfortable. And when I was reading, it took you back, it transported you back to that very time. But if we don't talk about it, as you write in your book, then we can't heal it. My light keeps going off. Okay. So we can't heal it. And so I just want the viewers to know that if you're feeling a little uncomfortable right now, just take some breaths. And later on in the show, Janis is going to teach us and talk to us about some healing strategies to kind of neutralize, counteract these memories we have that are almost ingrained in our DNA, Janis.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. I think they're even carried generationally. Yes.
And so if you would share another one with us. I mean, there's so many. When I was reading, like the traffic stop and your friend being beaten.
Yes.
And the issues around academics and the remedial English class in the grade. I mean, it was just, it transported me back. The only one I haven't seen is a friend beaten, but everything else you described, I have witnessed, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers have as well. So, which other one would you like to, that comes to the surface for you?
I'd like to share the one about Black hair, because so many of us Black women relate to it. There's so much talk about it with the Crown Act, and different programs that have been on over the last couple of months about our hair. So I want to share this experience. I think I was probably in fourth grade. Yeah, I was in the fourth grade, so I was about 9 9, 10 years old. My mother would buy the box perms and put in our hair. You know, in those days, our moms or our neighbors did our hair. So
Yeah.
she bought the box of permanent relaxer called Curl Free, and she put it in my hair. And when it was time to take it out, the best way I could describe it is I looked like a little greasy wet bird who had been electrocuted. If
Mm.
you can visualize that.
Oh,
There were
yeah.
pieces sticking out this way, a piece, crushed up this way, just bizarre. And I'm saying to myself as I'm recalling this, Jesus couldn't fix it. And the worst thing about it is I had to go to school the next day. I don't recall anything about what uh, children said, but I do recall my teacher looking at me with pity, looking at my hair. And I like this teacher. She was actually the first teacher where I wrote poetry in class, where I got to discover my love of poetry and writing in class and reading. So I love this teacher. She was a white teacher. So I just remember looking up at her, feeling ashamed, also looking at her white skin and her blonde hair and how perfectly coiffed it was. But my hair, being a hot mess. So that just really made a mark on me. Again, did not recall that until all of these memories started coming up because of the George Floyd murder. But it just speaks to how, as little Black girls, we internalized a lot of issues around our hair that we even take into our adulthood. And, still have issues with my hair.
Sure.
Although I embrace it now, I haven't used a chemical in my hair since 1984. I'm sorry, 1988. But we still have issues with our hair. So I really wanted to share that, especially for the Black women who are listening, that I see you and I feel you and I hear you. And I want you to embrace your stories about your hair as well.
Janis, thank you so much. I have two things I'd like to say. Okay, so you talked about the curl free. You didn't talk about the burning. Do you remember the burning?
I mostly remember the burning as a teenager. I can't say I recall the burning at age 9. She may have taken it out in time before that, but I do remember the burning as a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, what we did, and now we know that there may be some negative health effects related to having used those types of products. But the other thing I wanted to say is that it's so interesting that out of the 12, you pulled the 2 from your childhood. And you emphasized how they kind of live with us, right? And the whole impetus for me writing my book of healing poetry was from childhood trauma. So we gotta, as children, we can't articulate this, and of course we don't know the long-term effects. But as adults, it's so important. So I'm going off a little off what we talked about, but I think it's important if you could just speak a little to the impact of childhood trauma on adults and some of the things that we see.
In my practice, for years, I've been addressing the impact of unresolved childhood trauma and how it breaks the soul and the spirit. And you're also taught not to talk about it. So it takes up a lot of space in the body, in the psyche, and it really prevents people from being able to move forward or heal because they never got a chance to for it to either be acknowledged or for their feelings to be validated about it, or to be comforted over the trauma.
Yes.
So yeah, trauma, unresolved trauma is something that really, if it goes untreated, it really becomes a part of your identity.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going through life with this background music of trauma
Yes.
that can create fear, apprehension, about moving forward, not feeling safe.
Mm-hmm.
All of that, it informs your identity and your self-esteem. So unresolved childhood trauma, I think, is probably at the core of every wrong in the world.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah. And for me, my childhood trauma, I mean, I hid it for decades.
Mm.
How it manifested in me, besides, and people who know me will say low self-esteem. Yes, low self-esteem, feeling unlovable, but also um, not contracting. I'm thinking about infections. Uh, Being claustrophobic, because
Mm.
that's fear-based, right? It's a
Mhm,
fear-based
mhm, mhm,
emotional thing. I worked it out, and I worked
mhm.
it out by singing uh, gospel songs. Now, I'm not
Mm.
a soloist, I'm not, but I just sing out loud gospel songs if I'm in an area where I become claustrophobic or
Mm.
fearing heights.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
the other thing I wanted to say about hair, I'm going back a little bit, but I
Yes.
want the viewers to know that before we signed on, we were fiddling with our hair trying to get it right. And I said, oh,
All
Janice,
the time.
we're not going to get it right. So let's just, let's just,
All the time.
yes,
We don't
yes.
have to be perfect, right?
Yes, absolutely. No perfection here. So let's talk about, you have a number of healing strategies that you use to heal from
Mhm,
these traumatic experiences. And you talk about the relationship with your parents,
mhm,
attendance at a historically Black university. I'd like you to focus, if you might, on the spiritual grounding practices that
mhm.
you have used. And if you would like to talk about the effect of ancestors, because that was so soothing.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Well, a couple of practices that have become a part of my life over the last 20 years is practicing Tai Chi and Qigong meditation. It it cleanses you and grounds you and makes you open to taking in peace and letting out all of the chaos
Mhm.
that's in the way. Um, just prayer and meditation. One thing that I've been doing since the pandemic religiously is meditating and praying in the bubble bath
Mhm.
and literally talking to myself and releasing things through the pores into the water and down the drain
Mhm.
so that I can be open to God's peace and serenity. So, yeah, meditation and prayer in the bathtub.
Mhm.
Um, Being a part of a community, a church community. Um, I'm very active in my church, also active in volunteer work. I think that stepping outside of yourself and giving to someone without expecting anything in return is a healing practice. Um, what else? Journaling, which I kind of got away from, but it's that's a very important thing I've done over the years. To If you can't say it out loud, there's something magical about it coming through your hand into the pen or onto the keyboard and writing it down and releasing it. So journaling is another spiritual healing practice that I recommend. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely wonderful. Do you want to say anything about the effect of ancestors?
Oh, that's right. You did ask.
You just
when I get into a place of questioning whether I'm good enough or getting that imposter syndrome, I remind myself of who I am and where I came from, and that there is an energy that comes from my ancestors that I need to embrace and remind myself that they survived all kinds of trauma and injustice. And there is a part of them in me. So if I remind myself of the strength and the power of my ancestors, how can I say I'm an imposter? How can I say that I'm not good enough? Because I carry those genes with me. Whether it's my mother who passed away, my grandmother, or ancestors that I've never even met, their energy lives in me.
yes, yes, beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. So I just want to say to our viewers, if you're just joining us, I want to welcome you. I am Dr. Paulina Van, and I'm the host of this show, The Poetry of Healing. And my guest today is Janis Evans, and we've been talking about her traumatic experiences with racist encounters. And, and she just shared with us some ways she used to heal and continue to use to heal from the effects of racism. And so I just ask you if you would put in the chat, everybody, put in the chat where you're viewing from. We'd love to know where you're viewing from. You can like, share, and tag others. And typically, this is a 30-minute show. So as you can see, we've passed 30 minutes. But today, we're extending the time and gathering to hear and tell stories that will begin our healing. And so Janis is going to lead us in a healing exercise towards the ends of the show. But before she does, I'd like to invite you to participate in a meditation to prepare us for this time of reflection. And so this meditation is from the Women's Meditation Network, and it's from Katie Cremotis. And it's a meditation to give us space to connect to our inner voice, which will continue to cultivate a trust in her. And I'm calling her, but if you're him, it's your him voice. And it's going to have us, if we trust our inner voice, then we trust ourselves. Okay. And this voice is always speaking to us with truth and with love. And sometimes she or he will whisper, sometimes she screams, but always she's speaking to you. So let's begin. And it's going to take about 3 minutes. And so I just ask you to hang in there because this is absolutely a beautiful meditation. And Janis talked about meditation is healing. And that's been her experience. And I've talked to you and showed you. And so this is a meditation. We're going to do it now, but then you can go back. And I recommend you do it on a regular basis just to build that foundation. Okay. So once again, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes or lower your gaze. And whether you're sitting at your desk at work or sitting at the kitchen table, relaxing in a recliner or even relaxing in bed, I'm going to ask you to relax into that position that's comfortable for you and just allowing your body to adjust as needed. And focus your attention as we start to breathe. So focus your attention on your breathing. And I'd like you to imagine that every out breath settles you deeper into your position, lying or sitting, and it's going to slow you down. And see if you can breathe in deeply and slowly and out. Deeply and slowly. And when you breathe in deeply, breathe in until you can't breathe in anymore. And then when you breathe out, just breathe out just a little longer to get all the air out, or most of the air out. Okay. And by expanding your breathing and slowing down, you naturally relax your body. So today is a practice of being. And I'd like you to just lower your gaze, soft gaze, or close your eyes if you feel comfortable. And then it's a practice of being, of simply sitting with yourself in the present moment, so that the spaciousness where your inner voice lives can be revealed. There is nothing for you to do, nothing for you to seek out. It's all here within you in this moment. So take one of those nice deep breaths in and then out. And then just allow your body to breathe for you as it would like to. Now, perhaps your mind is trying to problem solve, trying to make sure this meditation works, longing to feel connected to yourself. As you notice any thoughts or emotions arise, just notice them and allow them to just pass. Bringing yourself back to your breath, the natural breathing that your body wants, a natural rhythm that is slowing you down and relaxing. This is the doorway to your inner voice, this present moment, this breath, this space that exists within you. When you release your thoughts and emotions, just be here and listen a bit. Okay? We're about halfway through the meditation. If there's guidance you're seeking, decisions you're pondering, emotions you're managing, imagine them being released from you every time you breathe out. And just allow yourself to be here right now with no agenda, no expectations, no attachment to the outcomes, no desires, just deep presence. This is the way in, letting it all go. Breathe. Feel that spaciousness expand. Feel the softness. This is your home. This is you. Be here and connect with your inner voice. Perhaps imagining yourself bringing your hand to your heart and tapping into your true self. And right now, we're just going to be here for a moment. But when you listen to this again, you can just stop and be here for a few minutes and listen to your inner voice. Everything you could possibly want is already here for you, inside of you. All you have to do is be here and listen. Your inner voice is always here to guide you with never-ending love. True joy begins here, right here, in this beautiful moment. And as you just take a deep breath in and out, what I'm going to do is just have us prepare for Janis and transition with about 15 seconds of music. Okay, so I'm going to just add the scene and then just going to play this. 15 seconds. Okay, so we've made a transition, and Janice, I'm going to ask you to help us with a creating a healing narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you want to read in a voice first. It's all depends on how you want this to um, unfold. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and although we're just going to I'm going to ask you just to give our viewers the instructions right now because we can't, you know, wait for them to complete it. But when
Okay.
they view the show again, then they can just pause it and
Okay.
be able to do it. So
Okay.
it's back to you.
Yes. Well, the first thing I'd like you to think about is um, an incident that has happened in your life that was, you felt it was racially motivated. I'll give you an example because this is something a lot of people can relate to. Share a story of a memory involving a workplace slight that was racially motivated. You can come up with your own, but that's a common one that a lot of people of color have experienced. After you've written down what your event is, journal a little bit about it. Use your feeling words. For example, um, did you feel angry? Did you feel ashamed? Did you feel belittled? Did you feel derailed? Did you feel insulted? Did you feel slighted? Did you feel stereotyped? So once you write down, journal about your event, how it made you feel using your feeling words, then I want you to ask yourself another question. For example, who made you feel like you mattered and had value in spite of your brown skin tone? Another question to ask yourself, who was the ancestor whose will and determination created the trajectory for you to survive? So ask yourself those. Write down what that ancestor, what how that ancestor may have impacted you, what came through the generations that informed who you are, the successful person that you can be. And when you're writing that down, and the other example was who made you feel valued, who listened to you, use your feeling words again. Acknowledged, assertive, believed, heard, loved, relieved, safe, supported. So use those feeling words when you rewrite that narrative of the negative impact that incident had on you. So those are the steps to take.
Okay, so I always like to give the viewers an example. And so you can use me as you give me the prompts. Of course, I haven't prepared anything, but whatever comes up, I'm
Mhm.
going to share. Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. Um, have you ever had an incident occur in public by a total stranger that you felt was racially motivated?
Oh, how long do we have?
Give me one.
Okay, I'll give you just one. Okay. So, um, I love to play golf. Well, I should say play at golf. And we moved to a new neighborhood where there's a golf course as part of the neighborhood. And so my first visit there was during the pandemic. And I was in line, you know, geared up with my clothes, of course, and my clubs. And when I um, got to check in, um, I asked, the person before me, she said, "Oh, I'll just put it on your account." And so when I got up there, I said, "Oh, okay. They're only taking credit cards. I didn't bring my credit card. I only had cash." So I said, "Well, will you put it on my account?" And she said, "You don't have an account." And I said, "But you just offered it to the person in front of me." She said, "Only people who live here have an account." And so at that point, I wasn't breathing. And I didn't do my heart focused breathing. Um, I was pretty upset.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
I asked her, I said, "What makes you think that I would just walk in here and ask for something that I'm not entitled to?" And the story gets worse, but
Mm-hmm.
that's where I'll end it. Mhm.
Okay. Can I put some feeling words to what you just described?
Absolutely.
Demeaned, devalued, minimized, angry, debased.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, and I will add, I felt a lack of trust. I felt she felt that I wasn't worthy to live here. That I just rolled in off the street. Matter of fact, I asked. I said, "Do you think I just rolled in here off the street?" um,
Mhm.
and so there was a lot packed into that experience.
Yes,
Yeah.
layers and layers.
Yes.
She ignited your ancestors.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm. Yes.
And I felt it in my whole body.
Hmm. Hmm.
My
Hmm.
whole body. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, I'm
Okay.
getting transported back there right now because
Yes. So I'm going to transport you forward because we're going
okay.
to rewrite that narrative. And I'm
Mhm.
going to ask you, who was the teacher or mentor who encouraged you and reminded you of your gifts?
Mhm. Mhm. And I am so blessed to have many of those people in my life. But I'm gonna go back to as a teenager, and the
Hmm.
first person who did that to me, and it was a nun. I went to Catholic schools,
Hmm.
and it was a nun, and she said, "What are you doing after graduation?" This was in high school. And I said, "I'm going to City College and get my nursing degree." And she said, "Why are you going to a 2-year college?" Which 2-year colleges, I'll tell you, train nurses the best clinically.
Hmm.
Um, but she said, "I want you to go to a 4-year college." I said, "I can't afford that. My family can't afford that. I need to get my degree and begin working." And and she said, "I don't want you to worry about that." And that nun arranged for several Catholic universities to come to the school to interview me. And I was accepted by 3 of them.
Wow.
And so she just, other things she said to me is that you have it in you to do so much more. Don't stop at 2 years. I want you to go further. Um, and she made it happen.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that because the purpose of my asking you that question
Hmm.
is to see your gifts and your specialness
Hmm.
to counteract the way that woman treated you like you weren't worth anything, like you were not good enough to have residence there.
Yeah.
But other things happen in our lives,
Hmm.
teachers, mentors, whoever these angels are, to
Hmm.
remind us how special we are and how to value ourselves
Hmm.
and to pull forth the innate God-given strengths and gifts that we have to
Hmm.
make us feel like we matter.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, we have it in us. That's why it's so important for us to tap into that inner voice.
Yes, yes.
And you have to be quiet. in order to tap into the inner voice. I wrote a poem about the inner voice, and I think I'll share it here because it's before we close. I'll just share it here. And for those of you who have my book, Regal Healing, it's on page 140 and 141. And it goes like this. My inner voice is soft. My inner voice wants to be boss. My inner voice is wise. My inner voice comes without disguise. My inner voice offers direction. My inner voice detects my rejection. My inner voice is loyal. My inner voice wants to be royal. My inner voice has a strong ego. My inner voice won't hit me like a torpedo. My inner voice is engaging. My inner voice is ingratiating. My inner voice is gently persistent. My inner voice eloquently averts resistance. My inner voice disappears when it senses my fears. As I follow my own way and stumble and go astray, I miss and yearn for my inner voice.
That is so beautiful. I have your book, and that is my favorite poem in the book. It speaks to me finding my inner voice.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I learned after I started the book is that I have been more of a in the background person and afraid to come out and let my inner voice speak.
Mhm.
So that is one of the goals of doing this book, was to tell my story and then discover my inner voice.
Yeah.
So I relate to that poem so much.
And another place that we intersect is using poetry to heal. And so before we close, and we're about to close, Janis, would you be so kind as to read one of your healing poems?
Yes. And I'd like to say that I am working on a second book, a book of poetry. And this poem will be in that book.
Mhm.
And I hope it will be coming out in maybe the springtime. We'll see. But here is a healing poem. It's called Reaching for Peace. As I look for calm within, distressing from the day, I reach for peace inside myself and exhale and heartbeat away.
Mm.
The peace that lives within my heart is often hard to find, caught up inside life's chaos, stuck in my stressed out mind. To be centered is my goal, stability within, clearing out the daily noise, shutting out the din.
Mhm.
Praying, breathing, standing still, I find my place of peace. The pathway to my heart is clear. Distractions will now cease. Peace is just a breath away. I get there at my will. With God's help, I pause and say, be calm, my heart, be still.
Oh, let's everybody just breathe that in. Just absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
I just felt my heart getting warmer and warmer. And as the words came. So
Mhm.
Janice, I just want to thank you for joining us today, this first episode of this new year. And you've given us so much that we can reach back and utilize, reflect on,
Yes.
to work on our healing. Um,
Mhm.
I'm sure that there's going to be something else that we want to collaborate with, and I'm going to
Oh,
invite you back.
I'd love to come.
Oh, I am so happy. So, um, I'm going to say goodbye to you now, and I just wish you just continued not even luck, because you have the gift, just continued blessings as what you have been given, you give to the world. Okay.
Thank you so
All right.
much. It's been my pleasure. And
Mhm.
this, to be in this healing space
Yeah.
is just a gift and a blessing. And I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And I'm going to share at the end of the show, I'll put up a slide for our viewers to be able to touch your work and get your work. Okay. All right.
It'll be
Okay.
great.
Bye,
Thank you.
Janice.
Bye bye.
And so, as persons, we're going to close now. And I just thank you for hanging in there. This was a longer program than usual, but I'll tell you, this is just, I know I needed this, and I hope you did too. So, as persons of African descent, we have been traumatized and damaged by effects of racism. But our guest today, Janis Evans, has recollected some of her own experiences, which really are our experiences. Um, we have positive experiences in our lives that can help us heal and heal again and again. We demonstrated that tapping into your inner voice by reading poetry and practicing meditation are ways to promote healing from racial encounters. And so I just ask you to please join me every first and third Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific time right here, and leave comments. I do read and respond to them, and I'm sure Janice will too if you have any comments or questions for her. Please like, share, tag if you found our segment today helpful and you'd like to share it with others. Follow or subscribe so that you'll know when new programming is available. Uh, Visit regalahealing.com to learn more about my healing and self-care work and resources. And again, I have tremendous gratitude for Janis for joining us today. I thank you, viewers, for spending time with us as well. And as always, I wish you love and light. Hi, Janis. I didn't put you backstage, huh? Well, good. I'm glad you stayed.
Bye.
I'm going to show our contact information as well. The viewers know that I'm directing my own show, so everything doesn't always go the way I plan. Okay, so I am going to remove you now. Okay, and just going to show you how to get in touch with Janice.